Welcome to Silent Stories, a channel dedicated to the untold tales of courage, sacrifice, and the human spirit. These are the moments that don't make headlines but live in the hearts of those who carry them. Today, we share the story of a veteran whose quiet strength spoke louder than any uniform, a tale of a hidden mark that carried the weight of a past too heavy for official records. The Texas sun-scorched Camp Bullard, a sprawling military base where the air was thick with the scent of mesquite and motor oil. It was late summer, the kind of morning where heat shimmers twisted the horizon into a mirage. Maria Delgado eased her battered Jeep into the visitor lot, the engine coughing as it settled. She sat for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, her reflection staring back from a cracked rearview mirror. At 42, her face bore the lines of a life lived hard, eyes sharp but shadowed, dark hair streaked with silver, pulled into a tight bun. She wore a faded navy PT shirt, its blue fabric worn thin from years of sweat and salt, paired with black running shorts. A canvas backpack hung over one shoulder, heavy with more than just water and keys. Inside, wrapped in a faded bandana, was a Polaroid of 6 sailors laughing in the dim light of a ship's mess hall, their faces young and untouched by loss. 5 of those faces would never see another dawn. Maria stepped out, her boots crunching on gravel, each movement deliberate, like she was still navigating a ship's deck in a storm. She wasn't here to chase ghosts. She was here because Chief Petty Officer Ramirez had called a month ago, his voice rough but warm over a crackling line. "We need someone to mentor the recruits, Delgado. Someone who's been through the fire. They're green and they need to see what grit looks like." Maria had agreed without pause, not because she missed the Navy's rigid structure, she'd left that behind a decade ago, but because she remembered being 20, terrified, needing someone to show her how to keep moving when the world felt like it was collapsing. The base buzzed with life. Recruits jogged in formation, their cadence calls cutting through the morning air. Humvees rumbled past, kicking up dust that clung to everything. Maria headed for the training coordination office, a squat cinder block building painted government beige. Inside, the air was cold, sharp with floor wax and burnt coffee. A young ensign, barely out of officer training, sat behind the counter, her name tape reading ENS Carter, L. She glanced up from her clipboard, eyes narrowing at Maria's faded PT shirt. "Ma'am, can I help you?" Carter's voice was polite but clipped, the tone reserved for civilians who didn't quite fit. Maria set her backpack down, pulling out a folded letter of authorization. "Maria Delgado, retired Chief Petty Officer. I'm here for the Recruit Mentorship Program. Should be on your list." Carter scanned the letter with the detached efficiency of someone who trusted paperwork over people. She typed, frowned, then looked at Maria's attire. "Ma'am, that uniform isn't authorized for non-active personnel. Base policy is clear. Only current service members can wear PT gear during official events." Her tone hardened, as if Maria was a problem to be checked off. "You'll need to change into civilian attire or leave." Behind her, a civilian clerk sorting files chimed in, not looking up. "Lots of retirees think they can just wear old uniforms. Doesn't work that way." Her partner snorted. "Yeah, it's not a costume party." Maria's face remained still, calm as a glassy sea. Her hands stayed steady, dog tags cool against her chest beneath the shirt. A reminder of who she'd been, who she still was. "I have clearance," she said evenly, tapping the letter. "Check again." Carter sighed, her fingers clicking the keyboard with exaggerated patience. The fluorescent lights buzzed, casting stark shadows across the linoleum. Outside, recruits assembled on the field, their nervous energy visible through the window. Carter shook her head. "I'm not seeing you in the system, ma'am. I'll need a supervisor." She vanished into a back office, leaving Maria in the hum of bureaucracy. The clerks kept chatting, their voices low but cutting. "Some people can't let go," one muttered. Maria didn't flinch. She'd faced worse, storms that tore ships apart, nights where survival meant moving when every instinct screamed to stop. A few snide remarks were nothing. When Carter returned, Lieutenant Hayes was with her, a wiry officer in his late 20s, his uniform so crisp it could cut glass. His eyes flicked over Maria, faded shirt, scuffed boots, weathered backpack, and dismissed her in an instant. "Ms. Delgado," he said, his voice smooth but patronizing, "I understand you're volunteering, but we have strict rules about uniform wear. I'm sure you get it. We can provide a civilian shirt, or you'll need to leave." He gestured to a stack of gray-based t-shirts. Camp Bullard printed in block letters. Maria looked at the shirt, then at Hayes. Her eyes carried a weight that made him shift slightly. "I'm here to help your recruits," she said, her voice low but firm. "The letter's valid. Check with Chief Ramirez." Hayes crossed his arms, unshaken. "The letter's a recommendation, not an order. Regulations are regulations. You're not active duty." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Maria nodded once, picked up her backpack, and turned for the door. As she adjusted the strap, her shirt lifted, exposing the skin below her shoulder blade. There, in stark black ink, was a trident crossed with an anchor, flanked by the numbers 924. No flourishes, no color. Just sharp, precise lines, like they'd been carved into her skin. Below, a small, stylized wave curled like a whisper of the sea. Carter didn't notice, already back at her computer. Hayes was turning away, satisfied he'd upheld protocol. But Petty Officer First Class Torres, entering with a stack of training logs, froze mid-step. His eyes locked on the tattoo and his breath caught like he'd been hit. The logs slipped, scattering across the floor with a soft thud. Torres knew that mark. He'd seen it in a classified briefing years ago, on a report buried so deep it was practically myth. Task Force 924, Triton's Blade, a covert unit that ran ops nobody acknowledged, missions that saved lives but left no trace. He'd been a junior analyst in 2011, sifting redacted files about a night extraction off the Somali coast. A pirate ambush, a stranded SEAL team, a single Navy diver who held the line underwater for 37 minutes, guiding a rescue boat through a storm under fire. The report had no names, just a code. Triton's Blade, 924. Torres watched Maria walk toward the exit, her stride calm, measured. His throat tightened. He should say something, stop her, tell them who she was. Instead, he turned and bolted for the back offices, logs forgotten, his heart pounding as he reached for a secure phone. He dialed a number he'd memorized but never used, from a briefing packet burned after reading. The office smelled of stale coffee and old paper, a single window overlooking the motor pool where mechanics worked under the climbing sun. The line rang twice. Command Liaison, a crisp voice answered, no greeting, no name. "This is Petty Officer Torres, Camp Bullard," he said, voice shaking. "I need to report a situation involving possible classified personnel identification." A pause stretched, filled with faint keyboard clicks and murmured voices. "Go ahead, Petty Officer. This line is secure. There's a volunteer here, retired, female. She's got ink, Task Force 924, Trident and anchor, clear as day." Silence, longer this time. Torres heard papers shuffling, urgent whispers. "Are you certain, Torres?" the voice asked, sharp now. "Yes, sir. I've seen it in classified files. This isn't some fake." "Understood. Her current status?" "They're asking her to leave. Uniform violation. Some lieutenant thinks she's out of line." Another pause. "Inform your commanding officer immediately. This individual is to be treated with full courtesy and given any support she needs. This comes from above your clearance." "Clear." "Yes, sir." "And Torres?" This call never happened. The line went dead. 10 minutes later, Commander Elena Vasquez strode out of the admin building, her presence cutting through the morning chatter like a ship through fog. She was Camp Bullard's commanding officer, a woman whose reputation filled rooms before she entered, tall, sharp-eyed, with ribbons that told of deployments to places that didn't make the news. Her boots were polished but scuffed, her uniform lived in, carrying the weight of decisions made under pressure. She found Lieutenant Hayes at the desk, sorting volunteer paperwork with the smug air of a job well done. Lieutenant Vasquez's voice was low, controlled, but it carried like a warning shot. "I understand there's an issue with a volunteer's authorization?" Hayes straightened, sensing the shift in the air. "Yes, ma'am. Uniform compliance. I handled it per regulation." Vasquez placed a document on the counter, its header reading Service Verification, Chief Petty Officer Maria Delgado, Special Clearance. "This was in your system since last week. Why wasn't it processed?" Hayes paled, his eyes darting to the paper. "Ma'am, there's a lot of paperwork. I must have missed it." "You missed it," Vasquez repeated, her tone cold as steel. "So you dismissed a decorated veteran because you couldn't be bothered to check your inbox?" Through the window, Maria sat on a bench near the training field, her backpack at her feet, watching recruits run drills. Vasquez folded the document and pocketed it. I'm fixing this, Lieutenant. And next time you think about enforcing rules without context, ask yourself if you're qualified to judge. Vasquez headed for the field, her stride purposeful. Recruits noticed her approach, their chatter fading, heads turning. Maria saw her coming but didn't stand, just looked up with eyes that had stared down storms and gunfire. Chief Delgado, Vasquez said, her voice carrying just enough for the admin building to hear, that ink on your back, where'd you earn it? Maria's posture didn't shift, but her voice cut through the air, steady and clear. Somali Coast, March 2011. Triton's Blade, Extraction Op. I was the diver. Vasquez nodded, her jaw tightening. Her eyes held a flicker of memory, something personal. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. My sister was on that SEAL team, Lieutenant Elena Vasquez. You guided their boat through a storm, took 2 rounds in the shoulder, and still got them out. Maria's face flickered, a shadow of pain crossing her features. Didn't know who was on the boat. Just knew they needed to get home. Vasquez studied her, seeing the weight Maria carried. The grief locked away because there'd been no time to mourn. My sister made it home because of you. She's got 3 kids now, runs a bakery in San Diego. She'd want you to know that. Maria's breath hitched just for a moment. Good, she said softly. That's enough. Then Vasquez did something that silenced the base. She snapped a sharp salute, right there in view of every recruit, every officer, every clerk watching from the admin building. The gesture was precise, deliberate, a commander honoring a woman in a faded PT shirt with dust on her boots. Conversation stopped. Recruits froze mid-drill. Haze, visible through the glass doors, looked like he'd been struck. Vasquez held the salute, then dropped it with the same precision. If Chief Delgado wants to wear that uniform, she wears it. If she wants to mentor our recruits, she mentors them. Anyone with a problem can explain it to me. She turned to Maria, her tone softening. Walk with me, Chief. Let's make this right. Maria shouldered her backpack and followed, not as subordinate but as an equal, 2 sailors who knew respect was earned, not demanded. In Vasquez's office, with blinds drawn and the door closed, their conversation was brief. Vasquez pulled up files on a secure terminal, scrolling through pages marked classified. Task Force 924, she said, not looking up. Triton's Blade. Disbanded after Somalia. No official record, no medals, just a Navy cross sitting in a vault somewhere. Maria sat across from her, hands folded. That was the deal? You saved 12 SEALs that night, Vasquez continued. Held a defensive line underwater, bleeding out, no support. Someone had to. Someone did, Maria said quietly. Vasquez printed a single sheet, signed it with her authorization code, and handed it over. Updated clearance. You mentor our people, you wear what you're comfortable in. Maria folded the paper precisely and tucked it into her backpack. Appreciate it, ma'am. They walked out past the clerks who'd mocked her, past Hayes, who now avoided her gaze. On the field, recruits were lining up for their next drill. Vasquez addressed the training NCO. Chief Delgado's pacing today's run. She's cleared for her uniform. Effective now. The NCO nodded. Yes, ma'am. Vasquez turned to the officers nearby. New policy, prior service veterans supporting training are authorized uniform elements at command discretion. Questions go to me. Hayes stepped forward, his voice shaky. Chief Delgado, I apologize. I didn't know. Maria raised a hand, stopping him gently. You didn't ask. The recruits watched, sensing something profound. Whispers spread, that's her. The one who... Did you see the commander salute? Maria didn't wait for fanfare. She dropped her backpack, stretched, and jogged to the track, her stride smooth and effortless. When the formation started, she set the pace, her movements precise, her breathing steady while recruits struggled to keep up. By the second lap, they were pushing harder, inspired by her quiet strength. By the third, they were learning from it. Vasquez watched from the sidelines, arms crossed. The NCO leaned in. Ma'am, think she'll let them catch her? Vasquez's eyes followed Maria's rhythm, her glide effortless while recruits labored. Only if she chooses to. The run ended with Maria barely winded, while half the formation gasped in the heat. She'd paced them perfectly, fast enough to challenge, steady enough to build confidence. As recruits dispersed, a young seaman approached, maybe 19, clutching a water bottle, her uniform still crisp with newness. Ma'am, she said, voice soft. Were you really with Triton's Blade? Maria looked at her, her expression guarded but kind. I was. The seaman glanced around, then whispered, my brother's in the guard. He heard stories about Somalia, about a diver who saved a whole team. He thought it was a legend. It was classified, Maria said, her voice heavy with years of silence. Supposed to stay that way. The seaman's eyes widened. Did you really hold the line alone? In a storm, Maria looked toward the horizon where the Texas plains stretched under a relentless sun. Not alone, she said softly. Never alone. But the others, they gave me their time. The seaman's face fell, understanding dawning. I'm sorry, she whispered. Maria shook her head. They didn't need pity. They needed time. When they ran out, they gave me mine. The seaman struggled for words, her water bottle trembling. Why'd you come back? After everything? Maria stood, brushing dust from her hands, her eyes warmer than the desert around them. Because someone's got to show you what it means to keep going. To serve without needing a spotlight. To carry the weight and make it mean something. She paused, taking in the bass, the flag snapping in the wind. You'll face choices, easy or right. You'll learn what it costs to hold the line, not for medals, but because it's who you are. That's why I'm here? The seaman nodded, eyes bright with awe and resolve, clutching her bottle like an anchor. Thank you, ma'am, she said, retreating into the bass's rhythm, her mind turning over Maria's words. Maria watched her go, then turned to the horizon, where the plains met the sky. The tattoo 924, the trident and anchor, was more than ink. It was a ledger of sacrifice, a reminder of the 5 faces in that Polaroid, frozen in time. It was the weight of a mission that saved lives but cost others, buried in redacted files to protect secrets too heavy for the light. Torres's recognition of the tattoo had sparked a chain reaction, reaching Vasquez, whose sister had been one of the 12 SEALs Maria saved. That connection turned a uniform dispute into a moment of profound acknowledgement. Vasquez's salute wasn't just respect. It was a debt repaid in silence, a truth carried in the quiet strength of a woman who served without needing the world to know.